Byakuya?
Pleasure to hear from you, even if you do appear a bit harried. What's wrong? Aren't you on trial or some nonsense?
Alright everyone, welcome to Enneagram One. This is genuinely my favorite of all the Enneagrams to deal with, just because of how misunderstood it is. It's so much fun. A lot of the times, either characters or people in real life will get typed as Enneagram One because, oh, this is like a person who's mad and perfectionistic, so yay, Enneagram. No, on a surface level, we're not going to find like expressive angry types as the Enneagram One because, as Claudio Naranjo talks about, the passion for anger and perfectionism that the Enneagram One has is not an emotional expression. It's an internal dissatisfaction with the way things are, and an internal compass. It's internally generated, a compass or a guide that says it must be better. It cannot be such a way. It has to be this way instead. And so, first thing you gotta dispel is, oh hey, look at this outwardly, emotionally, verbal character that goes on and on about how bad things are. No, the Enneagram One is actually a very rigid, self-controlled, typically a calm character who seems to have everything in order, because that's how they want to see themselves, and that's kind of how they put the...
Why not take a picture? We can move on to weightier matters,
Such as?
such as our current quandary.
So, what does this mean? It means that their unconscious anger, their feelings of frustration and standing against reality, exist under a disguise of goodness and virtue. So they're going to say stuff like, I'm not being abusive, I'm doing this for your well-being in the long run. Look, I'm putting you in pain for your own good. We all know someone like that. Real bastards, those people. But anyways, people who do this, they take their resentment against the imperfection outward, and they imagine, well, you know, my anger, my action against you or against the system, against the world, I'm not a rebel. I'm not doing this for fun. I'm doing it because no one else will. If you want another fictional example, Thanos, he's the Enneagram One. He is my favorite Enneagram One, probably of all time, actually. It needs correction, he says. And Gamora, of course, tells him he doesn't know that. He says, I'm the only one who knows that. I'm the only one who knows that. But yeah, he is a massive Enneagram One. Thanos' resentment, again, he's not an outwardly angry character often. But you do see his pressure with which he pushes against the natural world. He's not okay with things the way they are. And so he, being resentful against the natural order of decay in the universe, he decides that he's going to commit a universal genocide. He is so morally self-righteous that he decides that he can kill everyone. And he justifies himself. He gives himself all this justification and righteousness, uses it to exterminate people. And of course, at the end of it all, he thinks he's the most morally virtuous of them all. That's the danger of Enneagram One. This is the bad guy who's the good guy in their own story. They are, in my opinion, the most compelling villain of all, in any case. It is precisely under the guise of virtue that unconscious anger finds its most characteristic form of expression. An exception is St. John of the Cross, who in his Dark Night of the Soul writes with characterological attitudes as he describes the sin of wrath in spiritual beginners. Ooh, this is a lot of fun stuff. He says, there are other of these spiritual persons, again, who fall into another kind of spiritual wrath. This happens when they become irritated at the sins of others. Not just when they become irritated, specifically at the sins of others. And they keep watch on others with a sort of uneasy zeal. Now, I would like to take this time to switch over to the E1 book, and this is a particularly amusing story. Enneagram 1 represents the archetype of the Puritan, so remember what we were talking about earlier, they keep an eye on the sins of others. The Puritan denies their natural tendencies and zealously pursues those who indulge in them. To conclude this portrayal with humor, consider this joke about the Puritans. And here's the story. Two scandalized women call the police to report a group of young men engaging in indecent behavior under their window. The police arrive and remove these people, and the matter is resolved. However, the women call again, insisting on further action. The officer says, "Ladies, we've already expelled them from the neighborhood. They can't bother you anymore." And the ladies say, "But we can still see their indecencies with our binoculars. They are removed from our sight, but if we just go looking hard enough, we can see them." Enneagram One is looking for problems. They are looking for trouble.
Come for us to kill.
What? What would even be the point?
I'm afraid she's deceased. Homicide. I'm sorry, but if you're innocent, the burden of proof is on you. Yes, it's clearly stated in the rules.
I see. In other words, no one stands to gain anything from opting to team up.
Well, if memory serves, I believe the phrase tossed out a little earlier was luring someone to their death. Sheath implies as much. Had things gone according to plan. Oh, I'm sorry. You have a
Yes, quite right. The murderer is still at large, and time is short.
Let's get to it then. It's one of us. It won't even turn on. Cut-rate piece of junk.
Not to engage in it, as with the Enneagram 8 perhaps, but to correct it. Because they're just such a moral character, such a good person. And if they do all these righteous and good things to others and for the world, then the world needs to pay them back. And if the world doesn't pay them back, they are justified in changing the world. They're such good people. Oh my gosh, Enneagram 1s are such good people, and we should all bow down to them and give them our loyalty. Except no, don't do that. They're delusional. With E1, most of what we see outwardly, they beat themselves inside much harsher. Oh, yes. If they catch themselves not falling in line with their own righteous indignation, they will beat themselves up about it. It's not as if they're ignorant to their own problems. The reason they portray such an upright, moral, hardworking character is because they're afraid of not being righteous. It bugs them if they're not justified, if they're not righteous. Spiritual persons who fall into spiritual wrath. Ah, yes, they become irritated at the sins of others, and they keep watch on those others with uneasy zeal. At times, the impulse comes to them to reprove them angrily, and occasionally they go so far as to indulge it and set themselves up as masters of virtue. All of this is contrary to spiritual meekness. So this is not often a humble character. Not spiritually. He adds, pardon me, he adds that there are others who are vexed with themselves when they observe their own imperfection. Moderno is 4 for 4. And they display an impatience that is not humility. So impatient are they about this, that they would feign these saints in a day. Many of these persons purport to accomplish a great deal and make grand resolutions. Again, idealists. Yet, as they are not humble and have no misgivings about themselves, the more solutions they make, the greater is the fall and the greater their annoyance, since they have not the patience to wait for that which God will give them when it pleases him. Oh, they're just going to make everything so right. Oh, goodness. You won't be criticized if you criticize yourself all the time. E1, yep. If I just criticize myself, thank you, Lycan Soul. These guys. I can't wait to delve into the subtypes for them. I think y'all are going to love that. On the whole, Enneagram 1 is a well-intentioned and overly virtuous character, arisen as a defense against anger and destructiveness. So they're literally good guys, or virtuous people, to defend themselves from their anger and their resentment, which I find fascinating, because it means that they have a denial complex associated with their anger, whereas Enneagram 9s just suppress it and Enneagram 8s act it out. So the 9 says, oh, whatever, I don't care. Whatever, I'm so accommodating, look at me. Enneagram 8's like, yeah, you bet I'm mad and I'm going to go have fun. Enneagram 1 is like, again, I'm not anger, I'm the good guy.
So, a mutual killing game? I assure you, there has been no such program. It would be very intensive. I don't believe the remnants have the wherewithal these days. No, Scratch that.
The peacekeeping squad answers directly to the vice chairman. Ergo, we may reasonably deduce whatever the meeting's outcome. Kyosuke Munakata means to treat the inhabitants of said island as remnants.
You heard the man. The Foundation is in danger. Troubling, yes, but we dare not expose her while she's so close to them. Who knows what she might do? Monica Toa, who's currently below the radar somewhere in Toa City. I'll wager she's our maestro.
But yes, overly virtuous character. It would be a mistake to conceive of it as a violent character. It is the contrary. He is an over-controlled, over-civilized, interpersonal style. Striking in this style is also an oppositional quality. That's interesting. They are both over-controlled and interpersonal, but they're also oppositional. It's almost as if, how do I say, they're the accuser. That's what the Enneagram One is. He is part of the group, no doubt. No doubt he's a part of the group, unlike, say, a 5 or an 8, who might be a bit more antisocial or reclusive. He is no doubt a part of the group, but he's not always a supporter of what the group does.
Not that I believed we could Google our way out of this mess, but it did cross my mind.
Apparently, the author of our misfortune claimed it once it was deserted, and then he set the stage for this twisted little play. It is a game, you Philistine.
A zero-sum game, correct?
No, and why would it?
Even with your life on the line, you don't waver.
So you do understand me. Shall I spell it out for the rest of you plebeians? You voted Kawata guilty right along with the rest of us. Don't make me repeat myself. Just do as I tell you. Your stench is an insult.
Believed it back before this place, but now I just don't know.
Personally, I would characterize Enneagram 1 as being for the group, not the people in the group. So he's not going to support you in what you do. He's going to evolve and change and adapt and fix what you do and who you are so that the people, the group, the world, the bigger picture can function, can deal well. That's my interpretation, though. Who knows? A good name for the character is perfectionism, for in spite of the fact that people in some other styles may appropriately refer to themselves as perfectionistic, so we're all perfectionistic in certain places and times to some degree, Enneagram 1 is the orientation where it is most prominent. This involves an obsession with improving things that result in making their lives and those of others worse, and a narrow-minded concept of perfection in terms of matching of experience or events with a pre-established code of value standards, etc., etc. So these people can go through a lot of suffering and put you through suffering because it will bring you closer to perfection. Remember what I said earlier about them punishing others or acting stingily, cruelly, malevolently, perhaps, in order to make them better. Kind of moral delusion. This is a fantastic meal. They have a narrow-minded concept of perfection. It not only illustrates the fact that the better is the enemy of the best. Oh yes, you must not simply be better than who you were yesterday. You must be the best that you can be. Fletcher from Whiplash is calling out to me right now. By the way, he's in Enneagram 1. Fletcher from Whiplash, yeah. But may be said to involve cognitive bias. An imbalance between the allegiances to duty and to pleasure, to gravity and levity, to work and play, mature deliberateness and childlike spontaneity. So, they have an over-cognitive allegiance, a mental siding with duty and against pleasure, to gravity and seriousness towards work. But they tend to be pushing against levity, against pleasure, against play, against spontaneity, against the lover archetype in King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. It's a great book. Please read it. Enneagram 1 actually contrasts Enneagram 7 in this. A lot of the types contrast in this way, where the 7 goes very much at very too much towards spontaneity. They are too playful. They're not deliberate enough. They have too much levity, too much allegiance to pleasure. And so 1s and 7s are very much like this. This is why you catch me speaking so oppositionally against 7s. I have a lot of cognitive enmity with them. I have 2 Enneagram 1 friends that I appreciate very deeply, but on an archetypal scale, I'm cognitively against them. So it's a lot of fun. I tend to be a bit hard on them, but I appreciate my best friend who's an Enneagram 1. He's always keeping me on the right path. He's my moral compass. As a sequel to the word perfectionist, more colloquially, I have caricatured it as angry virtue. I like that term. A label that has the advantage of including both the emotional anger and cognitive perfectionism. Now, a lot of this we don't need to read because I'm going to drop the links in the chat and y'all can have fun with them on their own time. My brother and cousin are Enneagram 1. I drive them insane all the time. I can't help but to not piss them off. Yeah, I mean, haters gonna hate. Angry people gonna be angry. Enneagram 1 are there for the ideals, not for the group. Ideals over people. That is correct. Marge Simpson is an E1. I never watched The Simpsons. I need to. In series, everywhere, there is an idiot man that is irresponsible and an Enneagram 1, which is their wife. Oh, so many of those. It's almost comedic how, in literature, it's a trope to see the perfect, responsible, serious woman paired off with this kind of lazy goofball of a man. There is something intrinsically comedic about that. Lois Griffin and E1, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't actually know because I have never watched Family Guy. So, antecedents in scientific literature on character. I'm mainly going to skip this part because this was written during a time, a very specific time, and the scientific literature, most people are not going to be super familiar with this. So, I'm going to skim over this and we're going to see anything educational here. We'll talk about it. A schizoid form of obsessiveness. On the psychological, on the expressive psychology of him, it must be said that externally they often strike us by their exaggerated meticulousness, pedantry, correctness, and scrupulousness. In the realm of literature, it may be said that the type of person we are discussing was the first of all personality patterns to be observed. When Freud wrote his famous essay on anal character, Carl Abram picked up and elaborated the idea. Let's see. Neurotic present. This is a lot of stuff. Even if the neurotic compulsive sense of order is not present, a pedantic sense of order is typical of the compulsive character. In both big and small things, he lives his life according to a preconceived, irrevocable pattern. Pattern-oriented. Stubborn, set in their ways. Get to the subtypes. So, here's one thing we're going to do about that. I believe that subtypes, specifically the instincts of conservation, the sexual, and the social, literally need their own stream. There is a surprising amount of depth that goes into what the individual instincts mean, and how an instinct combines with a passion to create a subtype. A lot of information can get lost if we go immediately from core to subtype, because if we do not have the core down, you get a lot of mistypings, and here's why. A lot of the times when people are doing typings, I used to do this all the time, you go ahead and take someone like, oh, you know, that guy, he's obviously Sexual 7 because do. And he does a couple of subtype things. Oh, the subtype does this. But then you go to the core type. He doesn't act like a core type. He doesn't act like an Enneagram 7. But he acts like a sexual 7. So what does that mean? It's me that's impatient? No, I understand. I like the subtypes too. I had to talk about that. But yeah, core type is going to be super important to nail. Because if your character doesn't fit the core type, you're automatically excluded from being this. Oh, but what about the counter type? What about... The counter type does not mean that you disidentify with character structure. And we're actually going to talk about that in a second. But social 7 is still a 7 at its core. They're going to be gluttonous. They have that same motivation. Anyways, back to it. We're going to scroll down a bit here too. Here it is. The syndrome we have been discussing is today identified in the American DSM-3, that was a billion years ago, as compulsive personality disorder. The following cues are offered by this manual. So a lot of this, not all, but most of this you're going to see in the Enneagram One. Restrained affectivity, so they appear unrelaxed, tense, joyless, grim. Emotional expression is kept under tight control. They have a conscientious self-image. They see themselves as, oh, I'm hardworking, I'm industrious, I'm disciplined, I'm just so hardworking and prudent. Oftentimes their actions reflect this. Not always, but often. Interpersonal respectfulness, so they're adhering to social conventions. This is not a rule breaker. The Enneagram One is hardly a rebel. Now, there are a couple of instances where an individual can be very rebellious, but Enneagram One is typically not a lone dog. They are pack animals, no doubt. Cognitive constriction constricts the world in terms of rules, regulations, hierarchies. They are unimaginative, indecisive, and upset by unfamiliar customs or ideas. Behavioral rigidity, they keep a well-structured, highly regulated, repetitive life pattern. Now, this doesn't mean that they have a boring life. A lot of people, including myself, tend to associate repetitive with boring. That's far from it. If an Enneagram 1 needs something interesting to happen, they're going to...
Naegi, you're with me. The locker room. A prime setting for the taking of a life.
Huh? Yeah, if you say so, Togami. Wait! Guys can't go in there!
Bloodbath fever, huh? Interesting. There's something primal about the scene. Another killer on the loose, and the game is officially afoot once again. This is the work of Genocider's show. Follow me. It's not released to the public.
What the heck are they even doing here? How do we know this stuff is for real?
Your skepticism is healthy, but I assure you, these are genuine. They match the copies in my study at home. Also, every one of his victims thus far has been crucified, although that detail is only known to a select few officers.
Without the crazy talk, okay?
Thus, it's high time to name the culprit. Would you care to rack your brains, or shall I just tell you who it is? Obviously. Chihiro Fujisaki's killer is... Genocider Show! The second motif is important, as it's never been disseminated to the public at large. Without fail, every one of Show's victims... I think it would be fair to say she's a show and a note. Be a good girl, why don't you, and let the lady in question tell us the rest. And so we have found our killer. Fujisaki was slain by Genocider Show. She had clear motive. Face it, Show has a very specific modus operandi, and it matches this death to a T. Then how does it...
Single one was bludgeoned.
We're gathered here in the pursuit of justice. Your twisted kinks aren't germane to the issue at hand. Ass-face! Russ! I say, where's... So I killed Fujisaki in the girls' locker rooms of a known murderer, throwing suspicion elsewhere and covering my tracks. Does that summon... What do you mean?
But the real killer already knew. Therefore, you can't be our culprit.
I guess that works. Your evidence is purely circumstantial, but it clears my name. As theories go, it'll do. It's exactly as Naegi claims. I'm not the guilty party. I was testing your powers of deduction, and unnerving the killer with this late revelation. Excellent. Our little guessing games found its second win. I am going to survive this. That's all the rest of you need to know. The moment I'm declared the winner, I'm going to find a way to end you, little demon. I swear on my good name.
Out!
Who are you calling a bitpop? What sadistic scheme have you cooked up now? Consider this. We have a traitor in our ranks.
Not type someone who is boring and uptight as an Enneagram 1 just because of that. It's probably an Enneagram 6. Anyways. Let's go on down here. See if I can find some fun keywords. Oh yes, this goes into subtypes. We're not there yet. We're not big enough boys for that. We're actually going to go ahead and move down. Oh, fun thing. Claudio Naranjo actually associates Enneagram 1 with ESTJ, which I generally agree with, although there's certain other associations I would make with it. Blood from a stone. Anyways. Trait structure in what follows I have undertaken to show something of the nature of that perfectionistic character. This is where we're going to go over to a document that I made right here. This is the simplified trait structure. So what I did is, because I have a very bad attention span, what I did is I copy-pasted the trait structure from Claudio Naranjo's writings into ChatGPT, and I said, boil this down to an 8th grade level. And then what I did is I compared what ChatGPT spat out and read it right next to what Claudio Naranjo said with an unbearable amount of time. I should not have spent that much time doing it, but it happens. And copy-pasted it into this document for our convenience, so that way we don't feel the need to hyper-focus in order to read this scientific literature, roughly speaking. So instead we've got something that's a bit more reasonable and not a pain in the ass to deal with. The more angry and demanding Enneagram 1 is an ESTJ because E1s like ESTJ are a slave to their system. I didn't know this dude looked like Pete Davidson. You're like the 9th person in my life to say that, Mason. Everybody's saying that. Enneagram 1s are so system-focused. I don't know if I touched on it. I think I did briefly for a second. People have been saying I look like Theo Vaughn. Oh, rest in peace, my brother. Let's see. Anger. I actually like Theo Vaughn. Not a bad guy. By the way, if any of you find something interesting whatsoever, do not hesitate to screenshot it or message me after the fact with questions or your own opinions. Again, I love dialogue. It's fun for me. So, I am encouraging you to feed my mental gluttony. Anger. It is not one feeling among many. Again, we talked about this. It's not just one feeling. It's a deep and constant part of the personality type in the form of resentment, which often comes from feeling like, oh, I take more responsibility. I work so much harder than others. I put all this stuff into the world. This resentment is closely tied to criticizing people who don't seem as dedicated. Oh, you're so slothful. You're so slow. You're blah, blah, blah. I'm a martyr. I suffer so much. When anger feels justified, it can show up strong as righteous indignation. Ooh. Righteous indignation. Makes me want to throw up in my mouth. Anyways, anger can also appear as irritation, blame, or hidden bitterness, but it's often kept inside because it clashes with their self-image of being virtuous. However, this anger doesn't stay as a feeling. It fuels many traits of this type, like being critical, demanding, etc., and we're going to talk about those traits right.
Oh, come on. If I'm the only one who thought of this, the rest of you aren't even trying.
Since when's it our job to watch him?
Is something the matter? He's cornered himself then. You're joking. Why would the killer have made off with Yamada's corpse? 2 murders within moments of each other, and then evidence already discovered is moved.
What are you talking about?
Ishimaru's no longer among the living. We found him in the physics lab storage room. Second, and most importantly, there are 2 classmates of ours rather tellingly unaccounted for.
Hold up. I know what you're thinking, but Kirigiri was with us all in the cafeteria. That was when we heard Celestia scream.
Interesting. Well, that would appear to give her a decent alibi.
Yes, naturally. But I suppose that points the finger at Hagakure being Justice Robo, doesn't it?
Which means the rest of us aren't in danger. The school rules were abundantly clear on that point. Search the room, every detail.
Investigation, then trial!
The damn bear. As if he weren't taxing enough, he has to suck all the fun out of this round.
Thanks for the buzzkill!
And remember, this is the trait structure. One thing I would like to impart to you is that if you're reading this and you're trying to identify someone, my general rule is if you find 2 or more traits in the trait structure where you're like, absolutely not, you're probably not that type, most likely. So if you're going through this and you're thinking, yeah, I perceive this person as angry in this way, demanding in this way, but then you look at, say, over-control. Well, no, this person isn't over-controlled. She's actually really kind of relaxed and not interested in having a control over things. And you look at discipline. Well, no, she falls out of discipline really constantly. If you're finding 2 traits that are definitely not associated with a person in the trait structure, you're probably not dealing with that type. I give it like 90-95% you're not dealing with that type. The trait structures and all of the traits lead into each other. It's not as though they're all individual things where you can take it or leave it. It's a whole apparatus. So in identifying someone, knowing about the trait structure, it's not everything. And Beckett actually pointed this out. I don't know if he's here, but shout out Beckett. Trait structure is not something you want to focus entirely on, but it is pretty vital, in my opinion. We take a look at criticality. They are highly critical not just through direct complaints, but also by creating an atmosphere that makes others uncomfortable or guilty. This kind of criticism can be thought of as an intellectual form of anger, without the person realizing its true cause. It can come from actual anger, but it usually just feels like an attempt to, I'm just trying to help you, I'm trying to improve you, I'm trying to make it better for you. In this way, anger is expressed, but also justified and disguised as something positive. Again, they don't repress or express their anger, they deny it. I'm not angry, I'm justified. I'm not angry, I'm doing something good for you. Another form of this perfectionistic disapproval is moral reproach. Instead of simply expressing frustration, it turns into a way to control others. Changing, this is my favorite, they change I want this into you should do this. By accusing or judging others, they hope to influence their behavior to match their own expectations. The type you type me as, I volunteer as a panel. Yeah, shout out to Beckett, honestly. Hold on, Moderna, you say that again. I am slightly illiterate. Yeah, what did I type him as? Did I type Moderna as social? I typed him as social something. I have not? Okay. I had social 2 in my top 3. Am I ENTP? Mason, I do not sense the ENTP vibes coming from you. Shouted you out? Yeah. Beckett. Good old Beckett teaching me on accident because I keep on reading the stuff that he writes. Still analyzing. Yeah, I take my sweet time. People doubt my INTP. I'm not going to say that. You almost got me. You almost got me, Mason. I'm not going to say that out loud. You can't catch me. SO3 most likely. It's definitely top 3. I am ist against types. A typist. Yeah, Beckett is he's like a racist, but for your personality type. I personally learned my ideology from him. I just hate everyone who isn't myself. Anyways. Moral reproach. They change I want this into you should do this. By accusing and judging others, they're going to fix it. So, a lot of people, especially a lot of guys, are going to look at their girl. I can fix her. Enneagram One can literally fix you, by the way. They can fix you. Biggest problem solver? Yep. A specific version of this critical attitude appears in strong group loyalty. Again, they're pack animals. Where people judge and look down on others outside of their own whatever group they're a part of. In these cases, there is a desire to fix or punish outsiders. This is interesting. They kind of have the same thing that Enneagram 6 does, where they have an us against them mentality. That's interesting.
Let's get an explanation. Out with it. This is no time to play coy. If you want us to take your story seriously, I suggest you find it. All but one of us if we're wrong. And after playing dead for you, what pray tell did Yambada think was next on his to-do list?
Stammer something to the effect of his having barely escaped with his life, or what have you. If pressed for details, he could always feign amnesia.
But then he mentioned something about hostages, and she stood down.
Well, isn't that convenient? All right. To what end did your master plan your little charade? There you have it. She's been waiting this whole time for an opportune moment in which to pout. So what? It's one less person in the enemy's ranks.
How dare you!
Temper. Look, if you want me dead, do your worst. Are you going to slap me to death? You'll forgive me if I'm not quaking in my boots. You weren't...
Where anger towards authority figures is pushed down and redirected towards those with less power, especially those seen as outsiders, who then become easy targets for blame. Ooh. Is it safe to give Enneagram One the keys to help you? Will they be overly controlling? That's a good question. I think it depends on the level of integration that an Enneagram One has. There are going to be some Enneagram Ones that you should not hand the keys to your life. There are some Enneagram Ones, and I'm thinking of one right now. Someone who was a good friend of mine, but he and I kind of had a falling out recently. And his entire thing is that, yeah, he's got good motives. Like, he's a good dude at heart. But his cruel and unusual modes in order to save people, I would not give him the keys to anything. Not because of his bad intentions, but, intent doesn't matter. If you take it does matter. But at the end of the day, if you kill 4 people, doesn't matter if you had good intentions. You killed 4 people. What's wrong with you? It can be safe to give Enneagram 1 the keys to help you. You have to personally judge their own level of integration. How do they respond to their sin of anger? Are they able to accept that things are not perfect, take a deep breath, be a big boy, go out and splurge on some ice cream? Can they do that? If they can't do that, I trust them much less. Again, not because of their bad intentions. They don't have bad intentions. They want what's right, or what they think is right. Yeah, never trust the social one to not pedantically push their rightness on you. Very true. Wrong member, OBS. Yeah, a sufficiently healthy Enneagram 1 will be the best gift to your life imaginable. I know mine certainly is. My boy Thomas, shout out Thomas. He has been there for me to fix me and correct me and hold me by the throat when I was going to go off the deep end. I tell you, I appreciate him. SP1, least problematic E1. No, Thomas is not in the server. He is far above us mortal men. He's ascended. He communes with the gods. Real friend, like in real life, not a loser friend on Discord. Yeah, that's a massive flex on my end. I'm sorry, but let's see. Chai is that loser? Yeah. E5 losers. They're the biggest losers. Oh, we're not going to talk about that. Friends on... Yeah, exactly. You got it. Friends on Discord equals loser. Huge losers. The worst. Being demanding can also be seen as a form of anger, which is an intense need to assert one's desires, offer reaction as early frustrations. Are Enneagram 1s reactive types? Hold on. I think... No, it's 8, 4, and 6 that's reactive. Is that correct? Reactive types are... Hold on, little break so we can understand what the Hornavian groups are. Enneagram 1 has reaction formation as a defense mechanism. It's my favorite. Oh, reaction formation. Oh, we have to get to work. Reactive types are... Well, the reason I asked is because I don't really know. But the reactive types are the ones that have their own knee-jerk responses, or essentially that do not control when something bad happens. Like, they don't control themselves. They spring. Yeah, 4, 6, and 8. Yeah, it's rough out here. Oh, cute kitty! Someone go into the Theater of Dreams chat. For being reactive makes zero sense, though. Beckett, go ahead and post your article on why it makes zero sense. I will read it. Anyways, they often lecture, preach, or try to teach others. Oh, yes. Even when it's not really their place to do so. Oh, funny thing. Oh, this is my favorite. I love this so much. So, same guy who I had kind of a falling out with, he did this all the time. Lecture, preach, teach, again, with the best of intentions. But when I pointed out to him, bro, it's really not your place. Like, who are you? What authority, knowledge, or invitation do you have? Like, you know me. We're chill. And you've kind of earned the right to criticize me because you know me. But all those other people out there, the people we're just bringing into our group, you don't have a right to criticize them. And he's like, well, actually, I kind of do. I'm like, okay, how? Reason that out with me. He's like, I don't expect you to get it, but and he goes on and talks about how if I know, then it is my place. Well, I know the truth, so it is my place. I know self-elevation of kind of a moral standpoint. I know, therefore, it's my place to fix them. I'm speaking in a lot of negative terms here because this is how bad Enneagram 1 can get. The average person, the average normal Enneagram 1 is watered down slightly in these ways. Is bro an SX1? He is, actually. Very intuitive, Beckett. He's a sexual 1. He's a sexual 1, and I gotta respect him. The guy busts his ass to be perfect. But sexual 1 is the pushy one. He's very pushy. But I don't know. I have hope for him. Anyways, along with the need to correct others comes a strong desire for control, not just over people, but over surroundings and personal appearance. For example, someone with this mindset prefers a perfectly trimmed, organized garden where every plant is shaped neatly, rather than a natural, wild-looking one that follows its own course. Yeah, they're not very good at letting things be. Gordon, do you mean Gordon Ramsay is a pushy SP1? Yes, okay, that's interesting. I would not have thought of Gordon Ramsay as a self-preservation 1, but I will look into that. Omni-Man is a pushy SO1. Yes, no doubt. Hey, Moderno got that. Listen to his self-described backstories. I think I will. We might actually do that. You know what? When we start looking at subtypes, once we start looking and trying to understand subtypes, we're going to take a look at real-life examples. We're going to look at interviews. Do you consider yourself to be an expert in the Enneagram? I'm not an expert in anything. I am always a learner. The only thing I know is that I know nothing. If I won't be able to be here, can this get recorded? I'm recording it right now. Humble. Okay, but what do you actually think? I don't know. Isn't bound by the dunny. I used to. The more and more intelligent I became, the stupider I felt. And that's still true today. I do not feel that I am an expert, but I have a passion for this, and I enjoy teaching. And when I teach others, that's how I learn best. So that's actually why I'm here. By attempting to teach you, I'm actually teaching myself. So, am I an expert? I don't know. I don't know a lot of people who are knowledgeable about the Enneagram. What books are your sources based off of? It is Naranjo mainly, and of course, Naranjo works based off of Oscar's work, and then Oscar works off of some other dude. His name is like Gurdjieff. I don't know how to pronounce his name or even how to spell it, but I know there's one other guy that Oscar Icazo takes inspiration. Yes, George Gurdjieff. Is Gurdjieff how you pronounce it? He shot the moon with a 9mm. That's amazing. Fun stuff. Incorporating quotes from these books would build credibility. Oh, doubtless. So what I'm reading right here is just, it's taken from here. And right here is Claudio Naranjo's Character and Neurosis. So this is a book that actually exists, and he's talking about anger and perfectionism. This was taken from Claudio's book of Character and Neurosis. Reading through this, I got the impression that he's describing a type 1 fixation in pure form. So this stuff right here is from Claudio Naranjo's writings. This right here, this is based off of a presentation by Claudio Naranjo. In fact, I think it's actually his writing. And then right over here, this is a ChatGPT simplification I made of this so that we didn't have to boggle our minds too much at the trait structure. I basically just boiled down the language a little bit. Do you have Transformation Through Insight, the E1 book, and Dramatis? Yes, somewhere. I have it yeah, it is straight from his book, yeah. I had to dig around to find it a little bit. Do you have Transformation Through Insight? I've heard of it. I do not have it personally. The E1 book, I have it. And Dramatis in 27p, I lost my copy. These books right here. Hold on a second. This is mainly stuff that he said. I also have this. Oh, not this. Hold on. There is a Google Doc I have open where people have taken different quotes that Claudio has said about the different types. And then there was a compilation of both the Enneagram One book and a couple of scant things that he said here and there. And I compiled it into this Enneagram One collection. So I do not have the physical book that I am pulling from, but all this stuff here is based on what Claudio Naranjo has said either in interviews or he has written. So this is directly from the source. Using Naranjo or pretending. Yes, I'm very 7 core, so I would do that, but today I am not doing it. Beckett! Beckett coming in clutch. Hold on. I'm going to go ahead, Control C, and I'm going to send this to my friend. We are going to go ahead and do some reading later. Excellent. Thank you, Beckett. I will take advantage. Anyways. Criticality. What have we got? Oh yes, after criticality. Demandingness. Being demanding can be seen as a form of anger. Where are we? People with this trait tend to suppress spontaneity and fun, expecting hard work and achievement instead. They often lecture, preach, try to teach others, even when it's not their place. Like I was talking about that sexual one former friend of mine I had earlier. Pushy guy. However, this trait can sometimes be useful in roles like teachers or religious leaders. Oh yes, very much so. Along with this need to correct others comes a strong desire for control, not just over people, but surroundings and personal appearance. Dominance is closely connected to all this. Again, all of these traits lead into each other.
This is ridiculous! That is a vicious lie! The very name Togami is the Alpha and Omega! That's not true. As Naegi says, it's only been a matter of weeks. It quite simply is not possible. Unless, of course, the memory wipe goes back even further than we thought.
Togami, what would your family have done? Even if the world had gone to hell in a handbasket, wouldn't your family may be penniless, but you can't afford to give up!
Well played, sir. But just so we're clear, I need no encouragement from the rank and file like you. I've made a promise, and to men of breeding, our word is our bond. Well, I'd say the jig is up. Pity, you nearly succeeded.
Hoping you.
But dominance, like other traits, it's understood as another way that anger is expressed. Instead of showing frustration, it turns into a desire for power. We need to note, Enneagram 1 does not want power for its own sake. They want it so that they can fix the world. Enneagram 8 might just want power. Enneagram 6 might want it to feel safe or to keep it from someone else, although Enneagram 6 is honestly less likely to come into direct power because of how self-critical and self-questioning they are. But yes, they desire power and control. And it comes with a strong sense of entitlement. Gosh, this is my sexual one former friend to a nutshell. Crazy guy. where the person believes they deserve authority because of their high standards, hard work, intelligence, background, or cultural status. Because of who I am, I deserve this power so I can fix it. People with this personality type often seek mastery by strictly following rules and moral systems rather than obeying specific individuals. Again, what I said earlier, they're part of the group. They're not on your side. They are on the side of the group, on the side of rightness. This is why a lot of social sixes can get mistaken for Enneagram ones. They have a very similar deal. We'll talk about subtypes at another date. There's a lot of overlap. They strongly believe in societal norms and customs, not just following them, but passionately defending them. Now, I would like to note that if their personal sense of rightness and aboveness is opposed by a societal norm or what they perceive as a societal norm, they will go against it. The Enneagram One has a lot of self-assuredness and certainty in their own rightness. And again, they want to correct groups. They want to make things right. So maybe they'll be a part of a huge societal norm, a huge societal custom, and they'll defend it righteously, and they'll be all for it. On the other hand, if they view a societal norm which is opposed to one that they're already in, they're not just going to switch sides because that societal norm is bigger. They're going to defend and be a part of whatever they are a part of. So it's entirely possible that an Enneagram 1 is part of a very small societal norm, even comprised of just a dozen or so people. But they're going to defend it with their life, with their everything, and they're going to go against the main culture. Again, they're not intimidated by the bigness of someone else's moral compass because their, Chad Thunder moral status is bigger than yours.
You weren't summoned for a casual chat. Are you the one who killed Sakura Ogami? Put simply, Sho's testimony is corroborated by the evidence. That is where she attacked Ogami. And how did they dispatch such a fierce target? Here's the answer to the latter.
What's that?
A little souvenir from the chem lab. Deadly poison. Now why would this bottle be sitting among the health supplements? Well then, have a ball. I can't possibly imagine what these two facts might imply. It's safe to assume they were made with sneakers. Don't be a fool! Asahina confessed to the deed! You would acquit her over an errant shame?
The killer was Okami herself?
Asahina's actions make no sense! Tell us what— Monokuma, your game no longer holds any appeal, so I quit. Don't worry. You'll still get your fix. We'll send someone to the gallows, all right. You don't mind if it's your boss, do you?
Truly. Good villain characters. I'll say that. This dedication to principles, morals, and ideals serves two purposes. It helps them feel like good, ethical people, but it also allows them to control and influence others by imposing these standards on them. They tend to be drawn to law and order, and they respect authority figures without question. Now, one thing I think it's interesting, that it says that they don't obey specific individuals in power, but they respect authority figures. So it seems to me that their loyalty is to the figure, to the concept and the authority itself, rather than the person occupying that space. So they have no loyalty to persons, but rather to stations, to duties, and to respectable statuses. They really do. One example of this in fiction, if any of you have read Harry Potter, is this is Social One. Hermione Granger, the social one of fiction, one of the social ones, is always referring to people's stations as, headmaster, potions X, Y, and Z. This person's a historical figure. That person's a prefect. We could get in trouble. So they have a respect for authority figures, but not necessarily individuals in power. The authority, not the person. Thank you, Beckett. A lot of Nazi officers were E1. I am not surprised. I did hear someone mentioning that a lot of them were also E6s, with probably some SO7 telling them what to do. I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe. This strong attachment to rules and traditions often leads to a conservative mindset. Their perfectionism has two sides. One is the belief is in his superior attitude, and the other is a constant drive for self-improvement. So they're not simply at the top and they're going to stay there. They're going to constantly monitor themselves, especially self-preservation one. Both of these help them maintain an image of being good, fair, and selfless, distracting them from any underlying feelings of anger, selfishness, or resentment. They might describe themselves as honest, moral, and disciplined, but at times it can be more about maintaining an image than a general, genuine virtue. Another thing I would like to clarify, this is not an image type. When it is talking about seeing themselves and preserving an image of honest, moral, and disciplined, it is talking about preserving their own concept of themselves. They are not doing image formation. They are not fulfilling pride. They are not dealing with introjection. What they are trying to do is fulfill and maintain their own belief that they are moral and righteous and disciplined. It's not about their popular image amongst the locals, you could say. It's about making sure that they fit their own bill. They're very good at doing that typically. Nazis were SO6, but officers were often E1. That makes a bit more sense. Compared SO7 to religious figures a lot. I remember reading about that briefly, but that'll be fun to explore. Their strict sense of right and wrong often turns inwards, making them their own harshest critics. I think we touched on that earlier. They constantly push themselves to be better, suppressing their own desires and emotions in the process. They might also seek affection and approval by being hardworking, orderly, and dutiful, especially in response to early emotional disappointments. Perfectionism helps them avoid recognizing their own anger, but at the same time, it fuels frustration. Their belief that they are morally superior justifies an overly critical and demanding attitude towards others. A good example of this is in the image of the crusader. That's very fortuitous. Someone who believes their noble cause gives them the right to judge or punish others, while they may genuinely see themselves as fair and honest. Their obsession with being right can sometimes lead to a hidden kind of dishonesty. So they're not being honest about their own station in life. They've elevated themselves as judge, jury, and executioner.
That room's a candidate for where it took place. Oh, I don't know, perhaps you could start out by telling us all who you really are. Point made, Fukawa. And for the love of onions, control your halitosis. So it's to be amnesia then. Rather a tired device, don't you think? Very well. Why you chose secrecy I cannot surmise, but c'est la vie. To keep it. In all other hands, the knife is a liability. Interesting. It appears bombs come standard in these contraptions. Oh dear, I'm sorry. Did I neglect to mention I've already deactivated the sensor? I've a feeling something unforeseen befell the mastermind pulling Monokuma's strings. He seems to be a mouthpiece for the principal, the man alter ego believed to be behind this.
She was pretty adamant about it.
Snap out of it, the woman is mendacity personified. Either way, our course is clear. The next move in this morbid scavenger hunt is a I told you to bring back a medic! I can't answer the first question yet, but to the second, I'd say murder.
Damn it! There goes our evidence!
And hello, what do you open? Oh, I see. You thought dropping this bombshell would be a nice ratings booster. Without a doubt, the murderer is Terry Gear.
The connection between anger and perfectionism works both ways. Their need to be perfect may have started as a reaction to anger, and the hidden anger continues to fuel their rigid approach. However, perfectionism creates new frustrations, both for themselves and others, which leads to more anger. Basically, what we're saying is that their anger leads into perfectionism, but their need for perfectionism doesn't comport with reality, and they end up being more frustrated, which causes more anger. They don't get that under control. You have this massive feedback loop, and they are just the biggest malcontents imaginable. They gotta watch out for that. Huge, huge problem. Perfectionism includes many traits, from a love of order and strict rule following to a sense of duty and responsibility. It also has a personal side. Extreme self-discipline, criticism, and the need for control. Batman is peak E1? Really? In most variants? You see, I initially disagree with that, but I'm curious as to why we think Batman is, well, in one of the cartoon series, he was really E1. I'll elaborate later. Please do. We should discuss this sometime. Because I saw him as either social or sexual 6 initially, but... And that's true in some iterations, no doubt. But let's talk about Enneagram 1 Batman later. Just as dominance is an outward expression of anger, self-control is the inward expression of perfectionism. People with this type tend to exert extreme control over their actions. Excessive control makes spontaneity difficult. Again, kind of the opposite of E7, where, we'll talk about E7 later. Leaving them uncomfortable in unstructured situations, or when quick improvisation is needed. To others, their overly controlled demeanor can come across as stiff, awkward, or even boring. This need for control extends beyond outward behavior. It shapes how they think and process emotions. Again, talking about being rule-bound, strictly logical, etc., they rely on structured reasoning, and it limits their ability to make intuitive leaps or embrace unconventional ideas. Good old robots. Emotionally, their self-discipline leads not just to restrained expression, but even internal disconnection from their feelings. So they're not just controlling their emotions, they're disconnecting from them. Again, I'm not angry, I'm doing the right thing. I'm not sad, there's work to be done. They may struggle to recognize or fully experience their emotions as their need for control suppresses natural emotional responses. The alienation from an inner emotional world can make them seem detached or unfeeling, further reinforcing their rigid and controlled persona. Oh yes. It's so fascinating to read about. E1s have a hard time having fun, even if it even has a slight risk. Yeah, that's true. They're not fun havers whatsoever, as opposed to E7, who has way too much fun. While the self-judgment may not be obvious to others, it often is hidden behind a virtuous and dignified image. People with this trait struggle to accept themselves, leading to an ongoing cycle of self-blame and feelings of unworthiness. Harsh self-judgment creates constant emotional frustration, which turns into unconscious anger. In response, they push themselves even harder, believing that achieving higher standards will make them worthy. And again, I said this earlier, the pursuit of this leads to an endless loop of dissatisfaction. And we're going to reach the end of the trait structure here. Just as he demands toward others and expresses anger, harsh, self-exploitative demands, beyond simply trying to do good and uphold moral ideals, this self-demanding nature pushes individuals to work hard and stay disciplined, often at the cost of their own happiness. People with this trait tend to take life very seriously, prioritizing duty over pleasure. Just as anger towards others can have a vengeful edge, their self-discipline can have a self-punishing side that don't just delay enjoyment. They may develop a deep resistance to pleasure itself, adopting a strict, almost puritanical attitude that views fun and relaxation as distractions from responsibility.
The sprinkler system exonerates the... Lack of alibi isn't the only factor. The choice of weapon used to kill this Mukuro Ikusaba points incontrovertibly at you as well. Kindly stop trying to think, please. I've already discovered the weapon myself. It was in fact a quiver of Duralumin arrows I found in a dojo lock. And it just so happens the quiver of arrows in question were held together with a length of blood-spattered masking tape. The easy explanation? Hyoko Kirigiri is the killer! Specifically, the dojo locker's key. Nix the charade! You've been painted into a... Really? So you do nothing in your defense, but... Damn it all, I knew Naegi wasn't... I think it's safe to assume the rules have changed. To what? Upon enrollment, students had no visible scars. That conflicts with Monokuma's report. It said...
Dawn is dawn, even when it's not so golden. Even...
What do we say, specifically? Kusaba and Enoshima were twins? Damn it. Get a hold of yourself. We need her. Enough!
And that's the trait structure of the Enneagram One. Simplified, but it's there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these links right here, and I'm going to drop them in the chat so you guys, any of those who don't know, can read them. You can read them on your own time. Two things I would like to leave you with, two YouTube videos that I have in the top left corner here. We have an Enneagram Type 1 analysis by, right here. This is by a YouTube channel that I like. Her explanations, fairly simplified. I found them helpful in getting me into this because earlier I didn't want to read Naranjo at all. I didn't want to read Ikazo. I was very stubborn about it. However, this YouTuber actually helped me get into it so that I could be fully invested. Second thing I would like to leave all of you with, in terms of a YouTube video, is I would like to leave a song, which comes from Les Miserables. It is Javert's song where he essentially explains his motives and his character, and it is peak Enneagram 1. It's called Stars, and here he explains his inner character, who he is, and he talks about, you know, out there in the darkness, there's injustice, but I'm going to fix it and I'm not going to stop. And the more I listen to this song, the more I think, yeah, this is the perfectionistic Enneagrammic 1 character. He embodies the Enneagram 1. If you watch Les Miserables, it's an amazing musical. The movie's not as good. The musical is amazing. You're going to find a really good representation of an Enneagram 1 villain. All right. I need to take a second. My throat is killing me. Don't embody it. They are facetious by nature. Yeah, social sevens. A bunch of fakers. Facetious preacher. They're actually the closest, and it's funny, they're the counter type, but they are the closest to Enneagram 1. Like, I've seen social sevens mistype as Enneagram 1, which, you know, once you get to know them, they are very clearly a social 7, but when you're getting to know a social 7 on the outset, it's like, oh, that's gotta be a 7. Yeah, that's not a 1. But yeah, very facetious characters. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah. That's the book right there. This right here is Character and Neurosis. You got 2 videos you can take a look at. This is something I invented. Well, not invented, but decided to use for my own convenience. If you want to chat about Naranjo, yeah, I'll actually want to chat about it with you pretty shortly after. I just have to, like, go soothe my throat and go on a short walk, and then I'll be right back. But I think I can end the recording right there.